Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. As we're waiting for folks to join us, I want to take the opportunity to welcome you to our pre-election social. We have DJ Big Al spinning some tunes for us. I'm going to let him rock us out for a little while, and then we'll get started shortly. Thank you for joining. Make sure you tell your friends and family to come on the call and join us. We're going to have a great discussion this evening. If you like, bring a little cocktail with you. Let's have a party while we discuss our pre-election strategy, concerns, and issues. Good evening. We have a host of people joining. Welcome everyone to our pre-election social. We've got DJ Big Al keeping us entertained. We'll be starting shortly.
That day you walked inside, and no longer could I hide my love. I had to take you there. Sailing on a cruise at night.
Hello everyone. Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. Wanted to give infamous DJ Big Al an opportunity to share some sounds with us. Remember to please show your name or your call sign. We still have plenty of people trying to join the discussion.
Get and share that link, people. Share that link. Let people know. Let our family and friends know.
Now we are broadcasting on all social media, such as Facebook and Instagram. So make sure you're following along, everyone. Please share the link. All right, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Erica Lash, and I'm going to be one of your hosts for this evening. I want to take this opportunity to first thank you for taking the time out to join us. We're so excited. It's been a couple of months since we've had a forum, and now we're ready to get back into it. So thank you again. Don't forget to share the link with your friends and family. We're going to have a good time this evening. If you like, bring a cocktail and let's just have a great conversation. If you have questions, please post them in the chat. Someone will read them for you. At this time, we have everyone on mute just so that we don't have the confusion of everyone trying to talk over themselves. So we're going to get started. I have the honor of introducing our founder, Mrs. Cheryl Neal. Cheryl started this, and she's going to tell you all about it from just a bright idea with questions on how to address questions about the electoral process and just what was going on in our world. So Mrs. Neal, take it away.
Good evening, everybody. And again, thank you, Erica, for your commitment to this organization. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us this evening. As Erica stated, I am the CEO and founder of BTheNow. And BTheNow is an organization dedicated to educating, engaging, and informing our community to use the power of their voice and their vote to make a difference. So it's one thing to go to the polls and to cast your vote, but it's another thing to get several other individuals to do the same thing. So that's what we're really about. We know that nothing can get done with just one person. So if all of us collectively come together and do what we need to do, then we can get the right people in office that have our best interests at heart. So if you have time, go to our Facebook page, BTheNow. You can check us out on IG under BTheNow. And you can go to our website, BTheNow.org, which we are revamping. So look to see that in the next coming months. So I'm really excited about that. So again, as Erica was stating, normally when we have these calls, we have a guest speaker to talk about one particular idea or an event or just something. But this call tonight, we wanted to make it light. We wanted to sort of get a pulse on what people were thinking about this upcoming election. I know there's a lot at stake. I thought in 2020, that was our most important election of our lifetime, but it seems like every election after that has been the most important election of our lifetime. It's like we're fighting for our democracy. We're fighting to get good people in office, that's going to take care of the issues that need to be taken care of, not just for us, but for this next generation and the generation after that, because what we do today is definitely going to impact them in a huge way. So let's get started and just, we're going to free flow tonight. Like Erica said, if you have a drink, I have a little Sprite, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, or, put it in the chat. But the first thing that I really want to ask everybody is, how are you feeling about this upcoming election? I mean, are you excited about it? Are you uneasy? Are there any people on the line who are skeptical about even voting? Or if you're that individual that's just gun ho and is like, look, we got to get everybody involved, who are you? What person are you? And so just put in the chat or put your hand up and we'll take you off mute just to answer that question. So anybody can start. I see all these beautiful faces. Somebody has to start. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna start calling people out. Hey, Logan, you got your hand up. So can somebody unmute Logan? And then we have Angela Whitlock. Hey,
Hi.
Logan.
Hi, my name's Logan Porter. So one thing that I'm going to be doing, I just recently relocated to Atlanta. So first things first, I'm definitely going to get registered in the state of Georgia. I'm an Aggie alum, North Carolina A&T. So I was registered in North Carolina. but I'm going to get registered here as soon as possible. And one thing that I'm going to do is just, of course, work alongside my aunt. Cheryl is my aunt, so I'm going to work alongside her and just some different peers and friends in the community to work on advocacy, whether it's by going to different events, different conferences, marching and working to get other young people registered to vote. I was a part of the Student Government Association at my college. So that is one thing that I am very passionate about. My SGA class, we actually had the majority of students that Auntie has ever seen registered to vote on campus. So I want to bring that same work that I did on campus to the real world in the city of Atlanta. So working alongside my aunt, different peers, whether it be at work, just friends that I have here, I think first things first, getting everybody registered to vote. I think that's the most important. And then of course, inviting these peers to different events that I go to, different things like what we have now, Be the Now. My friend Chelsea is on here, she's logged in. That's my political friend. So doing things like that, I think even if it's just one person, whether it's a group of people, one person, just getting people knowledgeable about the upcoming election. So that's what I'm working to do. And then just, of course, like I said, advocating for things that I'm passionate about and teaming up and working with people that are advocating, that are on the polls for the things that I believe in. So I know that a lot of you guys are knowledgeable of what just happened with our government, with the abortion bans, things of that nature. So whatever it looks like, linking up with people in the city now that I'm in Atlanta. So like Mayor Andre, going to any events that he has, doing things of that. Thank you for dropping the registration deadlines because I definitely need that. But that is what I'm going to be doing. Of course, just getting acclimated in Atlanta, new city, new area. So my first step is getting registered. Once I get registered, going to try to get all the other young people registered because I cannot tell anybody else to get registered to vote in the state of Georgia if I am not myself.
That's right. Bam, you said it. That's awesome. And I appreciate your comments, Logan. But I do want to ask this quick question for you, and then I'll get to Angela and Chelsea. Are there any concerns that you have with this upcoming election? Is there something that's like truly on your mind that you're nervous about that could be overlooked or could be overturned, or just anything like that? Especially, you're in your 20s. Can someone unmute Logan? Logan, try to unmute yourself.
Okay. There we go. Definitely one thing I am concerned about is the overturn of more rules and legislations that we do already have in place, given what just happened. I myself need to learn more about the people that we have at a state level on the polls. Like I said, I just relocated, so I'm not too knowledgeable on them, but I need to do my own research just so I know exactly what everybody is advocating for and what they are about when it comes to their personal runs on the polls for the prelims in November. So once I get more knowledgeable and I do my own research, I will definitely be able to give a better answer, maybe at the next Be the Now call. But I never thought that what just got overturned would actually happen. So the fact that, and especially being a woman and a young woman, the fact that that did get overturned, and I personally know people that it has affected, just close friends of mine that have recently gotten pregnant and things of that nature. It's different when it hits home, hits a little closer to home, when things like that are overturned in our government system and it affects people that you are close to or that you know. And you see all these stories on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. And so that is one thing that I'm fearful of, but I also do have confidence in the people that are running, that are going to be trying to overturn the overturns and working towards those things. So I am just confident that as long as we do our research, we know who it is that our passions align with and who we do want to fight behind, walk behind, advocate for behind. I do have confidence that those right people will get voted for as long as we do our work beforehand. So
Absolutely. Good answer. I'm gonna go to Angela Whitlock. She had her hand up. Can Ms. Jones, can you unmute Angela?
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say, Logan, you pretty much stole the show, and I don't know how anyone can follow behind that. But I just want to emphasize on what she stated about, I think the young people, we have already been talking about that. I'm a part of the NAACP new membership chair. So we were also thinking if the young people go together in groups or in forums, they would be more likely to stand in line because they're chatting, they're on their phones, they texting, they're doing what they do best, and the time would go away a lot faster and quicker doing the standing in the poll. I also wanted to say this, what she stated about, I believe if we focus on the state level elections, we don't have to worry about the presidential election. We need to stay on our local election in our local counties and in our local counties and make sure we're appointing the right people and places at that time. And then like I say, the president would be an easy sweep if we could just do that locally. And I think I just learned about the local, and I've been here a minute or two. So I've just learned about that in the last couple of years on how important it is to vote to the state level and within your county.
That's right.
I don't really have any concerns, and my concern is about them overturning and giving us the right to vote, how that may be in jeopardy long term. But I just feel like if we all do our parts and we get out here and help each other get to the poll and go back to the basics as far as the churches getting to the polls and getting their congregation go out and show that we don't really have the marching. We don't have the marching drive like they did back in the early 60s and everything. But I do believe we can stick together by going as a congregation, going together. And just feel that will make a statement in a lot of these polls when we go out there and go to vote together. And let me see, I think that's about what my only concern was, my only issue was about let's do it together, and that we need to make sure that every vote, for any vote that don't vote, you can say, well, I'm just one person, but you may be that one that made us not go over the percentage. We don't want a close race. We want a landslide going into this race. It should make a statement and show we are not going to stand for this and that we are here for each other. We might not always agree, because there's some things that as a Democrat, I don't always agree with that particular Democrat, but there's some things, but when I weigh it, I agree more favorably on the Democrat side than I do on the Republican side. Then I'll look down the road and see how if I vote for this Republican, how would that affect my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren going forward? So you have to kind of like, we need to be not only thinking about today, but tomorrow as well.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. And, you said something about, that our young people, they don't march like, the people who came before us did. But you know what? They do march, but in a different way. They use TikTok, they use IG, they rally together when they need to. So, even though the form is different, but it's the spirit is still there. And, one thing that I realized in doing this is that, at first, we were like, well, who do we focus on? Because, you have, I'm gonna back up to when I started BTheNow in 2020. And it was due to a conversation I had with some individuals that were complaining about our current climate. So at that time, we were dealing with COVID. We didn't know what that was. We had a lot of different, there was rioting going on. There were protests going on. It was just chaos. And, I was talking about the upcoming election, and I had somebody or a few people say, I don't know if I'm going to vote. And that just blew me away, because I'm like, wait a minute, we were just discussing all this stuff that was going on, and you said you don't know if you're gonna go and vote? That I couldn't believe it. So I said at that point in time, I had to do something. I didn't know what, but I knew I had to do something to try to not just change people's mind, but to educate people on this whole legislative process, to get them interested in saying, okay, my voice will be heard. It's really not about me. It's about the community. So that's one of the reasons why we got started. I'm gonna go to Chelsea now. There she go.
Okay,
hey,
thank you guys so much for having me. And first off, thank you, Logan, my fellow Aggie, for letting me know about this call. I am so active in voting and politics, not only because I'm an Aggie, but also a part of the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We are very active with this kind of stuff. And currently, I am a part of Stacey Abrams' campaign. I'm a paid canvasser, and also I am in the process of being part of her lawyers committee. I am a prosecutor here in Atlanta. So I am naturally proactive instead of reactive. I am very excited about this election. I have no fears because I know, especially as millennials, we're going to show out. I also participated in Andrew Gillum's campaign in Florida a couple of years ago. So I'm very invested. I think that the time is now. I love what you said, Ms. Neal, that us millennials, we don't always use the more traditional methods, but we are out here on social media. We're making our voices heard. We're making it known that this is not okay, that we are here to keep Georgia blue. So I am very excited. I have no fears, and that may be optimistic, but I'm here for Georgia turning blue.
Oh, I
And
love it.
that's
I love it. I love it. Yes. That we need more of you. More Logan. I'm telling you, I mean, the future is bright. And as long as you guys are out there, you know, using your voices and getting your people, your fellow Aggies, even though I went to Howard, HU, you know. I love y'all anyways, HBCU. You know, we can make this thing happen. And I'm sorry, I'm missing other hands. I know Janice had her hand up.
And Wanda.
And Wanda
Porter as well.
Okay, so let's go to Janice first, our elder. And then we'll go to Wanda. Oh, Janice? Is she there? Or did she? I think she may have just hit her hand.
I just unmuted Miss Berry if she wants to go ahead and unmute herself and talk.
Okay. She's not. Let's go to Wanda. Wanda Porter out of Ohio.
Hello. Logan kind of took what I wanted to say, but I wanted to say when you mentioned or you asked the question, were there any fears? The only fear I have is that adults like myself who have young children or young adults, I should say, that are ready to vote, just the fear is that they're not doing enough to make sure that their young adults are out there registered and ready to vote when they are. So, of course, you know, Logan being 23, like she's ready, but, you know, I had to call my daughter Brooklyn, who just recently turned 18. I'm like, okay, you got to make sure you're registered. So, my comment is really just to encourage, you know, those that are of my age that have, you know, children of the age to vote, to make sure we are taking the responsibility, not just for ourselves going to vote, but making sure that our young adults are registered and ready to vote. And, you know, that's part of parenting. Even though they're grown, quote unquote, we got to make sure that we're not just, you know, saying what we do, but making sure that they're following in our footsteps to make voting super important, because it's a part of life. And it's actually one of my parenting skills to make sure that they understand how important voting is. So that's my comment.
Absolutely. And that was a great comment. You're right. You know, you said, you know, how before I was saying that our young people can get adults to actually do more. They can actually be the catalyst to get them to the polls. But when they're in a household like yours, I mean, that starts with the parents, you know, and it's an easier transition for them if you give them that guidance. So, I definitely appreciate you for that. Let's go to Dr. Carmen McGee, who had her hand up. Oh, and then we'll go to Hank. I'm sorry, Hank, I missed you. Next. So can you unmute Carmen? Hey, Carmen.
Hey, everybody. Listen, wonderful conversation so far. I have a question / concern, and maybe somebody can help me or let me know if anything is being done for this. It's really, really wonderful that as African Americans who are already inclined to vote, we're getting people out that we know, and people like us. I'm concerned about some of the disenfranchised communities, some of the communities that don't speak English. And one of my big concerns is when you drive through those communities, Republican candidates are changing their signs. And number one, they don't put their party affiliation on, and they actually put their signs out in blue as opposed to red, making disenfranchised people think that they're voting for someone that they're really not. Or they're, or like in the case of the running back, they made his orange. But in disenfranchised communities in particular, people who don't speak English are not knowing and voting against themselves because of misinformation or misrepresentation in that way. And I was wondering if anyone knows about that and how situations like that are being combated.
Yeah, I'm gonna, Derek, can you come off of mute? Because our state legislator, Derek Jackson, he may have seen a lot of that. And I have a couple of comments about that too, but I would like Derek to comment on that.
Great question. And can you hear me, Cheryl?
Yes.
Great question. And the reason why the Republican Party are using such a tactic and technique is because they're trying to divorce themselves from the former occupier of the Oval Office. And the reason being is because over 70% of our society have a disdain right now for the GOP. So think about this for a midterm where typically the opposite party that occupies the Oval Office, typically, the country, for whatever reason, think that they got to swing the pendulum on the opposite. So if the Democrats are holding the White House, then our citizens in these United States believe that they got to flip the House and the Senate so it can sort of have a balance of power. But in this particular midterm, you don't see that. And the reason why you don't see that is because of the recent events, and we all know what they are since June, overturning Roe v. Wade and the attack on women's rights in particular. And so over 70% of our society is saying they want to stay Democratic and go even stronger. And so those who typically will put, red signs and red letters and things of that nature are trying to use a tactic and a technique right now called confusion. And they speak with a forked tongue, saying that, we're all for justice and nobody should be held above the law. But they won't go as far as saying January 6th was wrong. They won't go as far as saying what took place in Florida and Mar-a-Lago, having over 115 pieces of classified material, was wrong. So they won't go that far. And so they'll go as far as, using the color orange or using the color blue or some shade of blue as a way to garner votes and to really confuse those who are not just Hispanics, but those who are not engaged. Because going back to Logan's point, if you don't know who's running and you think that outside of Warnock and Stacey Abrams, everybody got that name ID down. But there are some other constitutional offices that are just as critical. And Cheryl, I don't need to tell this audience how critical the labor commissioner, insurance commissioner, agriculture. I mean, these areas are very, Secretary of State, Attorney General. I mean, the list goes on, PSC. And so if citizens don't know between the traditional blue being Democratic, red being Republican, and they see something other than those colors coming from the other side. So a name like John Doe seems friendly, knowing that John Doe is not our friend. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, that was definitely a good answer. Another thing we have to, people in general have to get better at combating different strategies like that. So if like by you even asking that question, that means you've seen it or you've heard it. And the more people that discuss that, then we can put together strategies to do the same thing that they're doing. So if you know that someone is putting a sign out that's orange and it's not for that particular community, then we need to have somebody come in and put a sign for a person that is for that community. So we just have to continue to use some of the tactics that they're using, because we know that this is look, the strategies are all the same. It's just a different day and time. That's it. So we have to learn how to maneuver around those particular strategies. Let's go to Hank Stewart. Hank's had his hand up for a while.
Hey, Cheryl, before you go to Hank, I would just add on, not only do we have to do what you said, but we also have to make people aware of the ruse that's taking place. I didn't even know anything about that. So now it makes me open my eyes and look. So we have to spread the word, not only about what you should do, but also what you should look out for. Sorry, Hank, I yield the floor. Just had to get that in.
No, not a problem. I think a couple of things. One is, I'm tired of us being reactive. We have to react to too much. We got to start doing it. One thing that I really wish we would start doing is, and we got young ladies on this call who's going to be, probably want to be mothers, if not, nieces and nephews, and we need to get young men on who want to be fathers or uncles or whatever. But we need to start, the reason why voting was never an option for me, I saw my mom and my dad do it. They took us to the polls early when we were young. So voting I was excited to turn 18 and register to vote because that's what I knew in my house, right? And so we run our children around to everything. We run around to cheerleader practice, volleyball, football, baseball practice, but we don't run them. We don't show them. Voting is not a priority. I bet if you pull Representative Derrick back on, he'll tell you the pages down at the Capitol, you see more little white kids down there as pages, and yet a lot of our African-American representation down at the Capitol, a lot of their pages go unused the entire year. You got little white kids, they're down there all year long. They rotate. So they have so many kids. So they're involved in the political process early. Voting is something that they are reared and groomed in. And I wish our children, we would take our children to, and sit down on, at dinner. We don't eat dinner together, but sit down at dinner and go through the ballots, and talk about, some of the amendments. That should be standard. If it's standard, then they're going to do it. My son votes. My son, he votes because I've been voting for forever, and I took him to the polls, and and he votes. And so at 27, he's already changed his address and all this other stuff because he votes. And so I wish we would do that. And like I said, we run our children around to everything that we show them what is priority about what we take them to, right? If we run them around to band practice and everything else, that's important. But we show them that that's important, but we don't take them to getting registered and being involved in somebody's campaign and working at the polls and passing out water. If we do those things, our kids will become more excited about it. And lastly, I'll say this. I just want to slightly disagree about our kids not marching. It was because our children, and I was out there with them, that we had a conviction on George Floyd. It's because of our children that we got President Biden in. It's because of our children who were marching that we got a Juneteenth celebration and the Breonna Taylor. I was out there with them, and I saw thousands and thousands of children in Atlanta. I'm not talking about the ones who they showed tan to say that, but I'm talking about peacefully marching and protesting and advocating on behalf of, when George Floyd was murdered. So I don't necessarily know if they're not, and marching is still very powerful all around the world. When they started marching, people started marching in other countries because they were marching. So I don't necessarily know if I was some of my favorite mentees, Dr. Lowry, Dr. Lowry, Dr. Vivian, Congressman John Lewis, Cheryl, them, a lot of these folk that Miss Clayton right now, my grandfather, Reverend Cameron, James Orange, Miss Clifford Jones, the people that I know and knew well, and they knew me, they believed in marching, and I still believe it still has its place. I think we just have to, we have to do several. We have to have the streets and the suites. You have to work from both sides. And so I just wanted to put that out, because I don't ever want people to think that, because it's because of what happens. President Obama would have said on several occasions, he would have done more if we would have demanded more, right? He would have done more if we demanded more, and demand, and sometimes in the streets tearing stuff up. Hosea Williams, Dr. King knew he had to have Ambassador Andrew Young on one side, who was the negotiator, and the agitator on the other side, who was out in the streets, and that was Hosea Williams. I don't know how effective Dr. King would have been if there was not a Malcolm, out there on the street. You understand? So you have to have both, and so I'll mute on that.
No, I agree with that powerful statement. And it was all about strategy, right? All about strategy. And so, with that, there are a few things I want to touch on real quick, Hank, that you stated, in terms of seeing a lot of young white kids as pages, not our young Black people as pages, and just being, just actually opening the door. The doors are open for them. We're not taking advantage of it. And so that's one of the reasons why we started, we started focusing on some of the youth, like with our Be The Now youth program. And one of the things that we did last year is that we took over 75 kids to the Georgia State Capitol, and they were able to listen to different state legislators. Actually, they listened to local and national leaders at this event, as well as they were privy to areas in the state capitol that some people normally don't see. And we want to continue this type of events with the kids to DC. So that's one of the things that we're planning, because it's important for them to go to the White House, go to the Capitol, sit down with different types of not just the senators and the Congress people, but also the lobbyists, and see how the lobbyists move, as well as learn about the history of voting. And, young kids are getting a little bit of the legislative process in school, but not a lot. And I think it's organizations like this and others that are continuing that education for them is going to help us figure out who our young leaders are. Because right now, when you start looking at, this is one of my main concerns, when you start looking at, we got to focus on the midterms right now, but I'm also looking beyond that, because it's like, who's up next? Who's the next leader on the Democratic side? Who's the next leader on the Republican side? A lot of times on the other side, they got that on lock, but it's like, what's going on this side, the right side? And we just got, like you said, Hank, we got to keep our young kids ingrained in this process so they can grow up to, if they don't want to run for a particular position in politics or whatever, at least they know that they have to get to the polls and tell other people to do the same thing. So that's the key. Hank, unmute Hank, because he had a rebuttal.
Well,
I just think that, like, one of the reasons why New York Yankees, I'm a sports fan, and one of the reasons why New York Yankees has always been in the hunt, because they have a great farm team. Absolutely. Right? They have a great farm. And so we have to start, we got kids who run for student government president in elementary, middle school, high school. They have shown some level of wanting to be leaders, right? And we've got to start incorporating them and giving them platforms. I think I texted our group last week. My youth president from the Stewart Foundation was on with Derek Bozeman. She ran for president in our youth organization. I got Derek Bozeman to give her a monthly, once a month opportunity to come on and speak about youth issues, because she's shown leadership. She's shown an interest in wanting to be a leader, right? So, and we talked about doing more pages and all that. So I think we gotta be active. We failed our children. I often say that we failed our children. So we got a lot of ground to make up. We need to start going to these different elementary, middle schools, high schools, talk to the student government president, pull them in down to the Capitol, because they are leading their school. They are the leaders already in place. Even over at the AUC, and the Blight student government over at Georgia Tech and Georgia State. It might be a PWI, but pull those youth leaders and allow them to come to the Capitol as well, because and they've already and start putting them in place. Most of us, by the time we start looking at running for most of us got a pass that we don't want to expose in the election, and then it's probably too late for a lot of, not late, but a lot of us, we it's so much to learn, that if we would start grooming our children at a much younger age and incorporating, giving them a seat at the table. We just, even if they, I remember a lot, now I'm mute on this, but I remember a lot of times going to meetings with Joe Beasley and so many civil rights legends, and they would be at the table. I might be in the corner, but I was in the room. I learned a whole lot just being in the room, right? Hamilton was in the room when it happened, right? You got to be in the room when it happens, right? So you can grow. And so we got to start incorporating. I do that as much as I possibly can with our young people in my foundation and bring them to the table. We just got some money from the DeKalb County. We're letting them see how the money is spent, letting them help make the decisions. So we can't keep blaming our children if we don't put them in a position to be successful. Thank you.
And you're absolutely right with that. But I don't want to just negate the adults, because we know that the kids are our future, but us as adults can take control as well. I look at an example like Congresswoman Lucy McBath. She was a flight attendant for over 20 years. And she was privy, though, when she was younger, her parents took her to all those meetings. She would go to the marches. So she was ingrained in what was happening, but she never knew that she would run for, for office until something tragic happened with her son. And when things didn't get done, then she said, all right, well, I'm the person to do it.
And she knew the process. She knew the process.
So,
right. And so many of our children don't know the process. The local level, the school board, state representatives, state county commissioners. Just what we consider those low-hanging fruit, those small positions. And I heard somebody say that, I think it was your niece said that a few minutes ago. Those are some of the most important elections that you could ever have. If you don't get involved in your school board, and the seniors in a high school can, because there's the turnout is so low on school board and county commissioners that 100 votes would swing a whole election, right? So think about 100 seniors in a high school right down the street from my house, Cedar Grove or Towers High School or McNair or whatever. If 100 seniors say they're gonna go to the polls, they can determine who's gonna be their school board representative, their school board president. They can determine who's gonna be the county commissioner, and those are the things that affect them the absolute most. And then their state representative like a Derek Jackson, and so. But I just think that we've got to have these conversations with our children. We quick to talk about Beyonce and Carly B and everybody else and what you think about, but we don't talk about, the things that affect them. What Kim Kardashian does, what she does in her house does not affect my house, not one bit, one bit. But what Derek Jackson does affects my house a lot, right?
Absolutely.
And so we got to be a little bit more strategic about it. And I just think we got to grow up about that. All right, sorry.
Okay. No, great question.
Hey, Cheryl.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Logan actually had another comment, and she mentioned that in the chat.
Okay.
Then it would be Dr. McGee, then Derek.
Okay. Go ahead, Logan.
I was just going to say really quickly, especially because it piggybacks off the conversation you and Hank just had. I like how you said you don't want to negate the adults, because yes, the kids are the future. And then once you turn 18, you do have that power to make a change and have your voice heard. I also think with organizations such as BTheNow, to tailor more young people to voting, things that we wanted to do at A&T, such as getting artists to come, because at the end of the day, a lot of young people, we sit and we listen to Lil Baby, City Girls, Chloe and Haley, different things like that. So no different than how like Lil Baby, I only use him because he's in the Atlanta area, but him and Jada Wada, they do events like canned food drives and back to school drives. And I think that they would be very willing to do events for voting and pre-election things and things of that nature, they just never get invited to them. So when the young people, the masses, they see on Instagram like, oh, Lil Baby, he got a pre-election voting concert going on, like, oh, we're gonna pull up to that. How you get to see him perform is you register to vote. Things like that. I think things that a lot of ideas that students have on a collegiate level that technically don't get utilized because we have to go through so many clearances. That's one thing that I know personally I want to do with organizations such as this. Like I had all these great ideas. I was the chief of staff, had all of these great ideas, and we couldn't do them because we're on a college campus. Okay, now that we're in the real world, we can invite people like artists in the area. Okay, we have this event going on. Can you come and perform 2 songs? Okay, yeah, we'll pay you. But the way that young people can come see this little concert for free is getting registered to vote. A lot of young people, it's bad to say, but when you provide an incentive, they're more inclined to do something. So now it's like, okay, you register to vote, you see a performance, and you're getting knowledge and you're learning about who it is that you can vote for, who's on the polls, who's running for office, things of that nature. That was one comment that I wanted to add. And then I kind of forgot the second one. If it comes back to me, I will drop it in the chat. But I just wanted to say that I have a lot of great ideas that can be implemented with just events and Zoom calls, different things that will go on, because at the state level, that was the other comment. We had an event at A&T where we literally taught the students what each level at the state level, what each position did. So the labor of commissioners, a lot of students and a lot of young people, they don't even know what that is. So we were like, yeah, you know, whenever you're in the elevator, you see that person and that little picture and that name. Yeah, that's somebody that you vote for. They were like, oh, wow, really? We're like, yeah, different school board members, things of that nature. I think that it's very important to teach young people and even some adults. Some adults don't know either because they were never taught, or they're not in the circle or in the environment to where that's even a conversation or something that they even care about. But it's like, you should care about it, because at the end of the day, these people that are in positions of power, they're making the decisions for us, and you're paying taxes, so you should care. As long as you're paying taxes, you should definitely care.
Absolutely right.
I think it would be very, very smart to get some Mexican Americans on the team, people that are bilingual and can speak to these Spanish communities. And there's, of course, other languages, but I know that the Spanish community is very large within Georgia. So I think that getting people a part of join and BTheNow in different organizations. I know, Hank, you said you have an organization as well. I think that would be very smart, because those people could be the mutual person between the full Americans in the Mexican community, so that they can tell them, okay, this is what we have going on. This is the difference between the people that are red and blue on the polls, on the ballots, things of that nature. I think that would be very beneficial as well. And then, of course, just having even more people that are bilingual, trilingual. I know myself, I'm trying to get back right with my Spanish. So this just gives me a stronger push to do so, because I think it would be amazing to be able to speak to those communities and make them knowledgeable on what it is that you are voting for. Because yeah, like you guys said, they don't know what's going on. They get an incentive, they get a sign put in their yard, and they're told, okay, vote for this name. So they know when they see the ballot, okay, I'm voting for this name. They don't know why they're voting for that person, who they're voting for. And they think because it's blue, okay, yeah, that they're the one. So I think that getting that bilingual person, a Mexican American within each organization, within the team, a couple of them, would be very beneficial.
Oh, absolutely. Ding, 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 and ding. The only thing that you have to be careful with, you can't, for someone, you can't say, well, if you registered and I can give you this. I mean, you can't do certain things like that because of the election laws, and thank you, Hank. But it is very serious. You have to be careful with that. But you've hit the nail on the head, because I've been saying this for a very long time, that I feel like that when you look at politics, when you look at entertainment and the arts, those 3 areas have to coincide in order to make a stronger community. And it's mainly because of the followers, what you were saying. If there's someone over in the entertainment industry that is getting involved with politics, those individuals that are following that person are going to follow that individual over to what they're talking about on the political arena, vice versa. So you hit the nail on the head. Hank, you wanted to piggyback? Can you unmute Hank, please?
Cheryl, I think you hit it right on the head. As an entertainer, I mean, one of the things that really drives me was the history of Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, Sonia Sanchez, Gwendolyn Brooks, Langston Hughes, Paul Lawrence Dunbar, James Weldon Johnson. When you look at Muhammad Ali, and you look at, so many different athletes, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown at the time, Sam Cooke, Aretha Franklin. When you look back at why Dr. King and all of them were effective, it was because the arts, even Miss King, a lot of people don't know this, Miss King was a opera singer, so she would do concerts, during the civil rights movement. So you're exactly right. And I think that's one reason I hate to keep doing this. And every time we talk, I'm always talking about Colin Kaepernick. I'm always talking about him. But that's part of why I love Colin Kaepernick so much, was because he fit the profile of what the civil rights needed and had with Harry Belafonte and all of them back in the day. So, when I look at LeBron James and Colin Kaepernick, and I think there's a couple other people who paid, who gave money to feed people during the protests and all that. Me personally, my loyalty to an artist depends upon how loyal you are to the community, right? So I don't like buying music if every one of your concerts, if you never do anything for the community without you, if you're not out there on the grind, I just don't want to support you, because it's about our community as well. So young people, please demand more out of the people that you support. Demand more out of them. And I'm a huge LeBron fan. I mean, the amount of people LeBron is putting through college, and the amount of him playing and wearing I Can't Breathe t-shirt, that, I love Michael Jordan, but he never did that. He never did that in our era, right? And he was the most powerful athlete. LeBron James and Stephen Curry and all of them. Curry putting $5 million in Howard, HU, the golf team. Demand more people who you support. And if they don't support you, then don't support them, and support issues that affect us, right?
That's right. And that's one of the reasons why I have, like, Big Al was a DJ on. There's several different DJs that come on when we do these speaker forums, because I truly believe they're the heartbeat of the community. They make people feel good all the time by spinning their records. They have a lot of different followers. And so if Al and these other DJs can get the information and the knowledge that we're talking about, they're gonna take this conversation back to their followers and talk. That's what we did even during the 2020 election. We had 50 DJs from across the country spinning for 50 consecutive hours, to bring attention to the Senate runoff. And I truly believe, I mean, you have people in California, Jersey, all over, talking to the people that follow them about what's going on in Georgia, and stating, even though you're not in Georgia, you know somebody in Georgia. So pick up the phone and call those individuals. So it is the power of music. It's the power of entertainment. It's the power of the arts. All of that combined, again, is going to strengthen our communities and help us get things done. Okay, we had Carmen next, and then Derek, and then we're going to close it out because it's close to the end. Carmen.
Okay, I promise to be brief. Just a couple quick observations. Number one, I want to share that, yes, whoever commented about our children being exposed, it pays off very quickly. My son surprised me and ran for an office as a freshman at Grayson High School, which was a big deal because he's relatively shy. But it showed me that he wanted to be a leader, and he was willing to try. He didn't even tell me until after the race. He lost by 1 point, but still he tried. So I was really excited about that. Number two, very quickly, as we talk about reaching out to other communities, and I'm going somewhere with, and I promise to be brief with this, but Gwinnett County, as many of you know, is the second most diverse county in the country. I think the only county more diverse is out in California. There are 240 languages spoken in this community. And so much of what other people, not just Hispanic, but other cultures, other ethnicities are experiencing, are affected by the confusion that Derek just described. Thank you very much. And that was a brilliant answer. And I appreciate you sharing that. But I just want us to keep that in mind. Finally, as we think about us having a global society, our discussions, while they're local, and they should be local, and we have to concentrate on local elections, and maybe some of the politicians on here can speak to this. I was really disturbed when the headlines described how the most nationalist prime minister since Mussolini was just elected in Italy. That's a reflection of what's going on in the world. And I, personally, I pay attention to that stuff like that. That says that the issues we're having here in the States go beyond what's going on here in the States. And suddenly it's not just us fighting against what's going on in the United States. We also are in a fight with the rest of the world in some way. And that's just something that we have to stay mindful of. While our conversations are local, and they should be, we can only do what we can do locally, but we should stay mindful of what's happening in the rest of the world as well. Okay, I'm done. I promise not to say another word, and thank you everybody for your input.
Absolutely, Carmen, and thank you for that. We're gonna run now to Derek. State Representative Derek Jackson.
No worries, Madam CEO. Listen, I just want to answer your original question. Why am I concerned as a state legislator? And the two things that I'm very concerned about and that we are not talking about, but if you really think about the birth of BTheNow, we were talking about it. In 2020, we were talking about voting rights. And if we do not have voting rights, Cheryl, we can't have a conversation about nothing else. We can't talk about civil rights. We can't talk about women's rights. We can't talk about reproductive rights. We can't talk about hospital, Medicaid expansion, education, HBCU. We cannot talk about nothing if you can't vote. And so when people keep saying, well, Derek, there's a precedence, we're not going to overturn. I'm sorry, Roe v. Wade, been around for 50 years. And the same Supreme Court justice, every time they go through the confirmation, they all say there's a precedence. I'm here to tell you all that Voting Rights Act of 1965 has been chipped away and eroding all the time. And it really took place in 2013, July, when they removed that section of pre-clearance. And when they removed that section about pre-clearance, 48 out of 50 states went to work changing voting rights at the state level. And so what concerned me, listen, I'm okay with everybody's platform and messaging, what Warnock and Abrams, what all they're talking about. But if we don't talk about what really is not creating the energy that we witnessed in 2020, and then have the audacity right here in Georgia in 2021, and that's around voting rights. That's why BTheNow came out, because y'all were talking about voting rights and the essence of, nobody knew, Cheryl, that every 25 years, Congress voted so Black people can vote. Not Hispanic, not Asian, not Mexican, not Caucasian, Blacks. And that was part of the negotiating that took place in 1965. They put a couple of sentences in there to say every 25 years, Congress need to reauthorize. So African Americans, Black, colored, Negroes can vote in this country. And so if we do not pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act right now, which brings me to my second point. And I love what Hank and Dr. Carmen and Logan, what everybody's saying. But if we don't talk about voting rights, y'all, we're gonna wake up, find ourselves in Russia and China and all these other communist blocs. So this is global, to Dr. Carmen's point. This is a global issue. My second point is this. And again, I'm not, I just want to be absolutely clear. I'm not targeting nobody's platform. But what I am saying, African Americans, Blacks in particular, are disinterested in folks keep promising, and we come out in record numbers, Cheryl, and folks are not delivering on their promise. Everybody else get their promise delivered in their community.
That is true.
And so what I've been hearing at the grassroots level is that folks said, we showed up in 2020, we showed up in 2021, and the promises that were advocated in 2020 and 2021 have not been fulfilled. And that was, we want the John Lewis Voting Rights Act today, period, end of story.
No, I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But we also got to look at, we can't give up, even though it hasn't been passed yet. And I get it, because what's the other alternative? The other alternative is not going to get anything done. But I agree with you.
We've been dealing with the alternative since 1965.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? The 1965 Voting Rights Act was enacted a year before I came into this world. And so well before us, folks are saying we're exhausted of broken promises. This is not a Derek Jackson. This is where I'm hearing at the ground. And so the engagement is there. When people say young people are not voting, Logan just told you they're there. Hank just told you they're marching, right? So we cannot believe in the narrative that other people are saying about us. We're not, I reject those narratives. When they say Black men are not voting, we're voting. Even if it's 82%, 82% is better than 0. Okay? And so we just got to make sure that those narratives, we don't believe in those narratives, those myths about us. We just got to make sure that we hold folks accountable.
Absolutely.
To deliver on the promises that they made.
And that'll be great for our next topic. That'll be a great discussion for our next topic. You're absolutely right. What we're going to do, we're going to go to Penny Poole, who has her hand up, and then we're going to close it out with Big Al. But Penny, you had a comment?
Yes, I do.
Hi, Penny.
First I want to say good evening, my first time here. And I thank you for what you are doing in your organization. I want to say hello to everybody on the line, and I listened intensely. As a grassroots organizer from Gwinnett County, everything that was said by Representative Jackson just now about our African American voters is so true. We are the only ones who have to be legitimized by the Voting Rights Act. And one thing that I want to say is, I know that a lot of people want to build and collaborate. However, most of those other cultures, and I'm going to talk about Latinx, Hispanic, and Asians, they are making strides. They are getting laws passed. They are getting targeted funds. As a matter of fact, they are outpacing us because we, again, were unable to pass the John Lewis Act. I think if anything I've heard from this conversation that we spoke about tonight is the fact that even though we're on this line, even though organizations are talking, we are still not effectively engaging each other where we can make policies, where we can hold, and that big word, those elected officials accountable. When we have the senator, the House rep from Charleston, South Carolina, lead and ordain Biden as president, but yet still we cannot get the implementation of programs. We could not get those ARPA funds. We could not get those funds for Build Back Better. So our voices are taken for granted. And I think if that's the one thing from this table tonight, we are being taken for granted. And being an advocate and a boots on the ground person, I am hearing those same things. In Gwinnett County, over 58% of African American registered voters voted, 58%. No one else had those numbers.
That's right.
No one else. And we show up. But what I want to challenge everyone on this call tonight is to make sure when you elect anyone, especially our local jurisdictions, you make sure that they recognize and understand that if they are failing and not helping the people, they must be gone. They must be gone. All of these counties who have predominant African American and Black people who have been elected in the 2020 elections, many of these people are not performing. Many of these people are not keeping their promises. Many of these people are not standing up on their platform, or did they even have a platform? So again, one of the things when we're educating our children, because I like that so much tonight, talking about educating and opening up that door and not just telling them, but showing them. Our children must understand that there must be issues, platforms, and consequences to these people who they give this vote to. And one thing that we do not do is call them out. Well, the Gwinnett NAACP, we're calling out people in Gwinnett. Maybe that's why we are who we are, but we call out people in Gwinnett. So I just want to say kudos to the young people here, but understand that our voices are our vote. Understand that our community who has been here for 400 plus years, those promises are still not being given to us where others can come in on our backs and get the advantages that we're supposed to have with affirmative action. They must understand that until we as a community, African American community, until we have the rights, Reconstruction never died. We know Reconstruction never died because of these phones now. When people were killing us and murdering us for years, but it is the smartphone and the internet that changed the game. So we have got to teach our young people about processes, about accountability, about making sure your voice is heard. No one has that answer right now that you were debating. Do we not vote? Do we vote? No one has that answer. But again, as Representative Jackson was just saying, people are not happy. And a lot of the politicians, Stacy, we talked about, the Congresswoman McBath. We talked about even Senator Warnock. They've been coming to Gwinnett, but they have not been visiting our communities. They've been showing up at Latinx functions. They've been showing up at Asian functions. And the Democrats out here, that's a whole nother, so I won't get personal. But they have not been talking to the people. They have not been telling us how they're going to resolve these problems for us. They are taking us advantage. They are not listening. So if I want to put it out in this group, in this forum, what can we do to make sure that they listen and that they are accountable? So again, kudos to this group. Kudos to the excited young people. We're training up young people here. We had Black Family Day at the Capitol prior to COVID. I even tried to get Hank in on the conversation previously. And of course, him being who he was ready, willing, and able. But for us, COVID slammed that door and we decided that the COVID was too much for us. But we've been there twice with groups of youth 75 and more in that process.
Wow.
So again, it starts with them. Thank you for letting me speak. And but we've got to hold people accountable.
Well, first of all, thank you for speaking, and we hear you clearly. We definitely do. And I think we're going to end on that note, that powerful note. And our next call, I think we'll focus on the solutions. What can we do in our communities to make them stronger, to hold the politicians accountable, just to make sure everyone does what they're supposed to do. And you guys, again, I want to personally thank each and every one of you for sticking on the call, for your comments, for your text messages that I've been getting, just your participation. We really appreciate it. And, I always say, when you look at Be the Now, we have a tagline that's be educated, be engaged, be informed, be the now. And the meaning behind that is if we feel like if a person is educated on a topic, if they're engaged in that particular topic and informed on how to do it, they can't do anything but take action, which is Be the Now. So I really appreciate everyone on this call. We're going to take it out with Big Al. Big Al, tell everyone where they can find you and where they can follow you tonight. Can't take Big Al off of mute.
Yeah, I did.
Big Al, let everybody know where they can find you. Can't hear me?
Well, I can't hear you guys, but I'm sure you can hear me by now.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. Cheryl, I appreciate you. And I just want to let you guys know a few things. It's very important to get out here and vote. I see you guys were talking about getting the youth involved, starting with the HBCUs, and also talk to and reach out to some of your Greek organizations as well. Because I know my organization, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, we are definitely out here working to get people involved and registered to vote. So definitely you can work that angle as well. So while you're out there at the HBCUs, call upon some of them to help you out as well. And they should gladly help you. Also, my name is DJ Big Al out of St. Louis, Missouri. Once again, thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.